evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Rob Macko. Of course, we've got a lot of weather coverage to get to tonight, but first tonight on 13 News at 11, a high school basketball game in Portsmouth, Ohio came to an abrupt halt tonight over fears that someone had a weapon in the stands.
Marilee, you're absolutely right. This is big. 6 people killed here in Logan County in that helicopter crash last night around 5 o'clock around this time. Now, that helicopter was based here at the Logan County Airport, and I can tell you that National Transportation Safety Board investigators are here. They're at the crash site right now.
Coming up, company versus company, why this athletic clothing company is suing over economic harm. Plus, a man risks his life to save his 4-legged companion during a dangerous storm. And this 7-time Super Bowl winner announces that he is officially retiring, this time for good. You're watching Good Day at 4.
I got my Santa hat and everything. It's such a festive environment out here. I love seeing Capitol Street like this. Look at all these people, Amanda. This is amazing. We've got the library here. They're in front of the library. Look at all these folks here on Capitol Street.
This is the fire from yesterday that displaced nearly 100 residents of the Regal apartment building over on Charleston's East End. Now, most of these units were occupied at the time of the disaster. You could see all that smoke and fire pouring out of the building. At first, you couldn't even see the flames, but it quickly developed to what you see here.
No longer need to stress about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it, because starting December 1st, you're not going to have to pay them. The library says existing fines will be waived.
If you go to a food drive, sometimes you're thinking, what do I buy? What do I get? Do I get the canned sauerkraut? Do I get the lima beans? You don't want the lima beans. No, what you want to do is buy one of these bags for 10 or 20 bucks and look inside. You've got all the stuff you need. They make it easy. They take the guesswork out of it here.
We did that, what was that, 2 years ago in February?
I was just thinking that. It was 2 years ago. This brings back such memories of that ice storm we had about 2 years ago. And Texas had the ice storm then too.
Yeah, it was February, right? Yeah, it was.
I think it was, yeah.
Man, that was a mess. You can still look out in my backyard and see where the trees had fallen. They're still out
here. Yeah, exactly. All right, Spencer, thanks.
Lily, Andy, thanks so much. Boy, what a fun morning. This is the first ceremony, first announcement in 3 years for the West Virginia Music Hall of Fame. And this year's inductees include 3 living inductees and 2 deceased. Here's a display of some of the artists here. They represent a wide variety of musical styles. Now, this year's inductees include bluegrass, traditional, and country music artist Buddy Griffin. Now, he gave a little performance for us all this morning. World-renowned classical pianist Barbara Nisman. She has played with Don Henley and Billy Joel. West Virginia's so-called funk brothers, Fuzzy Haskins and Calvin Simon, they were members of Parliament Funkadelic. Y'all remember them from the 70s. Now, the deceased inductees include the Lonesome Pine Fiddlers and Winston Walls. He was a well-known Hammond B3 organ player. Griffin and Nisman were there this morning, and they say it's a great honor. The 2023 induction ceremony will be held in May at the Capitol Complex, the Culture Center Theater at the State Capitol Complex. Now, back in 2020, because of the pandemic, it had to be recorded, but this year the event will be broadcast live, and it's something that everyone is really, really excited about. For now, live in Charleston, Rob Macko, 13 News.
A flood watch is in effect for much of our region, causing schools to let out early and mud to slide. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rob Macko. Amanda Barron is on assignment for us tonight. We start tonight with team coverage on this severe weather and water concerns throughout our region. 13 News reporters Rachel Pellegrino and Mark Curtis are here to give us some insight on the chemicals in our area from the train derailment. Happened a couple of weeks ago in Ohio, and Chief Meteorologist Spencer Atkins will tell us all about the heavy flooding and how long this severe weather is going to last. But first, we're going to go live to Lincoln County. Now, this is in the Harts area near Harts Pre-K through 8. This is over on McClellan Highway, where there have been all kinds of issues this afternoon. Not only was there high water covering the roads, but a power pole actually fell onto the road. That caused issues with dismissal for the school kids. The students were on the buses, but then the drivers couldn't go anywhere safely, so they brought the kids back to the school, got them a snack, and waited for the water to go down. Once that happened, they were able to get the students back on the bus, and now they are heading home. Lincoln County was also hard hit. This is in the Yawkey area. The creek here spilling into the road in some spots. You can't tell where the creek ends and the road begins. This is along Midway Road. It's not far from the ambulance station. Josh Hunter sent us this video, so we thank you so much for that. Now to the Griffithsville area, where the roads were also covered in water. This is in front of the old Duval Pre-K through 8 school, where you can see some drivers made it successfully through the high water. The students at Duval Pre-K through 8 who were in the Hamlin area, they had a delayed trip home. That's because the roads getting to their homes are flooded, so they can't get there. Same is true for many Lincoln County high school students. We caught up with one driver who says it's just a real mess out there. And one school bus driver told us they couldn't believe the amount of rain that fell in just one 45-minute stretch. This was the scene this afternoon on Route 34 in Putnam County, just north of Interstate 64 near Tays Valley. One lane of traffic was flooded and drivers had to exercise some patience getting through there, but dispatchers say there were no serious problems reported. All Putnam County schools were dismissed 2 hours early today. Take a look at this now. It's a mudslide. It blocked Route 21 in the Sissonville area in Kanawha County. Everyone going that way had to take a different route. This happened after 1 this afternoon. The cleanup took hours, but it is now clear. And in Huntington, Four Pole Creek is at its banks. In some cases, it's spilling over. This is the Enslow Park area. It's a spot known for flash flooding. People there are used to it. Now, just in the last 2 weeks, crews were out cleaning debris out of the creek to try and prevent flooding like this and flooding that we saw this past summer. That ruined some of the things in people's homes, and in some cases, it took months to clean up. All right, here's what we know about the chemical plume from the train derailment in Ohio as it moves down the Ohio River. According to the West Virginia Governor's Office, the large plume is at Point Pleasant, and it's moving at about a mile per hour. Because of today's rain and the fact that the Kanawha River ends there, the additional water will greatly dilute the traces of chemicals. It's estimated the plume will get to Huntington by late Friday night or early Saturday morning. Again, officials say the chemical levels are small and that they are not dangerous. All right, 13 News reporter Rachel Pellegrino joins us live now along the Ohio River with details on what's next as that chemical continues to move downstream. Rachel, West Virginia American Water has switched over to an alternative water intake system on the Guyandotte River, and the company says this will be in operation until further notice, but they're continuing to monitor the water quality there. All right, Rachel, thanks so much for that update. Now, when it comes to the response to this emergency, West Virginia Governor Jim Justice says it's all hands on deck, but for now he says the situation is under control. Our chief political reporter, Mark Curtis, joins us in the studio with more on this. Mark, thanks. A lot of people concerned. A press conference was held today, and officials from the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, surveyed homes in East Palestine, Ohio today. City, state, and federal leaders are working closely on the response effort and spoke with the community members about their concerns. Authorities are trying to convince residents that they are safe and that the air and water numbers are not of concern, but many are still having a hard time believing this. Now, turning to the forecast, Chief Meteorologist Spencer Atkins is here now. Spencer, Governor Jim Justice declared a state of emergency for all 55 counties, and Kanawha County just declared a state of emergency as well because of the flooding. So what can we expect going into the next few hours here?
Yeah,
Boy, what a mess. All right, thanks, Lane, for that live report. Well, drivers had to dodge high water in the community of Pinch in Kanawha County today. This is along Greenbrier Street near Commercial Drive. High water was there. Crews were out getting things under control and making sure drivers could get through that area. And check out flooding that's happening out Wayne in Wayne County. All of the schools there closed early, and you can see why. Scenes like this where floodwaters covering roads. Our viewers in that region sent us these photos from the Laurel Creek, Mill Creek, and Paddle Creek areas. So we want to thank them for those pictures. And to stay up to date on the latest weather conditions and the status of traffic and school closings, keep watch on our website, WOWKTV.com, or download our 13 News app. You can also check out our Facebook page. You're watching 13 News at 5.
The West Virginia Beacon Digest served readers in Charleston's black community for decades. Benjamin Starks founded the paper in 1957. His son, Steve Starks, took over as editor and publisher in 1983.
We tried to focus on things that impacted, of course, the African-American community especially, but we also tried to show comparisons between that community and the rest of Charleston and West Virginia.
The paper tackled issues on race and discrimination and showcased black storytelling. Stark's wife, Debbie, handled sales and sponsorships. They laid out the paper by hand and had 8 people on staff at one point.
It was very popular all around the state, and we would get replies and kudos and things like that for what the paper meant to those communities around the state.
Stark says many articles had a big impact, including the creation of Multifest. Multifest was born out of an editorial he wrote about what he says was a lack of diversity at the old Charleston Sternwheel Regatta. His editorial led to a boycott of the event in 1990 and the creation of the first Multifest that same year. We found this interview with Steve Starks from 1990.
It was a void that needed filling. And it's not only people of color, it's everyday people that don't get an opportunity to be included in the functions of our city.
Stark stopped publishing the paper in April 2020. He says the internet, social media, and the pandemic were just too much to overcome.
What kind of void do you think that left in the African American community?
It left a void. We hear about it all the time.
One of the big ways the Beacon Digest was distributed was through the African American churches. Reverend Matthew Watts of Grace Bible Church says it's something that his parishioners looked forward to getting every Sunday.
Everybody was clamoring to get it because they would have some national story happen in another urban city that we didn't know anything about. They'd have something about black entertainment, about black sports, about black athletes.
Watts says black newspapers like the Beacon Digest played a huge role in the civil rights movement.
And the black press was also reporting things that maybe some of the mainstream media wasn't reporting, like some of the horrific hangings and lynching and some of the brutality against African American people. So it really was, it was the voice.
Watts says the work that Steve Starks did with the Beacon Digest undoubtedly influenced a new publication that's trying to fill the void of black storytelling.
And I think it became the forerunner for Black by God. And people realized that we need a black press. We need a black publication.
Black by God, the West Virginian, is published by Crystal Good. The publication has a printed edition and an online presence, hoping to inspire a new generation of storytellers and champions of civil rights. In Charleston, Rob Macko, 13 News.
Country music superstar Keith Urban is playing the Charleston Coliseum tomorrow night. Now, this concert will be a homecoming for his bass player, Jerry Flowers.
Jerry Flowers. Can I stop the flow time?
Jerry Flowers is Keith Urban's bass player and will perform with him Saturday night at the Charleston Coliseum. Flowers is from Pinch, West Virginia, so this will be a homecoming celebration.
That's the place where I saw my first concert in 1984. I saw Van Halen there, and that changed my whole life, that moment.
He's played the Coliseum since then with Keith Urban and also the Dixie Chicks, but he still gets butterflies coming home.
I got a lot of friends coming and family, and I'm nervous, to be honest. Like I'm excited, but nervous.
Flowers has been in Urban's band for 17 years, but actually started playing with him shortly after he and his brother Randy moved to Nashville in 1993.
We played all over the country, every rough bar you could think of. It was brutal.
Things aren't so brutal anymore. Besides performing, Flowers is an accomplished songwriter.
It took me about 10 years after I got my first publishing deal before I saw any success.
We'll have a house party. We don't need nobody. Turn you.
And then success came calling. He's written 5 #1 country songs.
I remember the first time I went to a Sam Hunt concert, and the house party was the first hit I had with him. To see a crowd react to something you were a part of writing is a feeling like no other.
Despite all of that success, he doesn't plan to give up life on the road.
What I do with Keith really that's my sweet spot. Like when I get to play bass and sing harmonies, that's really where I'm the most comfortable.
He says fans can expect a fun, high-energy show in Charleston Saturday night.
There's rarely a night that I'm not amazed at what he can do. He is so good on stage. So anybody who comes to our show is just going to feel pure joy for 2 hours.
So much fun talking to him today. Now, Flowers and his brother, they actually used to play in a band in Nashville called Pinch, named after their hometown. He says Dustin Lynch has one of his songs, Party Mode, in the top 20 this week, and he says Morgan Wallen just recorded one of his songs on Monday.